In the town of Tristram, the entrance to hell appears as a blood-red crevice in the earth behind Pepin's clinic, and upon entering it, we exclaim,
"I must be getting close."
as we witness the bone architecture and gore of poor adventurers and villagers before us, strewn about in a decorative fashion, no doubt to the liking of the Lord of Terror himself. Upon exploring the level, we're descended upon by a pack of deadly doom guards, which we dispose of through great effort as they are engulfed in a ball of flame. It's then we attempt to head down to level 14 and a step closer to the Lord of Terror himself. But see, our path is blocked. Surrounded by the Great Bone Staircase is a thorny room adorned with a plethora of weapons and armors. Unable to find a way inside, we continue our search for an alternate route. Feeling our way through the hellish nightmare, we happen upon a gut-wrenching sight. More bodies impaled on spikes by 2 burning crucifixes, and in the middle, a lone tome sits upon a pedestal. We attempt to read the cover that is inscribed as the Steel Tome, as a massive Balrog creeps its way through the darkness before we're forced to eviscerate its corpse.
The armories of hell are home to the Warlord of Blood. In his wake lay the mutilated bodies of thousands. Angels and man alike have been cut down to fulfill his endless sacrifices to the Dark Ones, who scream for one thing: blood.
It's then we hear in the distance the sound of a door unlocking and instinctually know the Warlord lays in wait, inviting us to his armory of hell. We resolve to stop the bloody sacrifices and portal back to town to learn of any information on this Warlord of Blood and pray for safe passage into the bowels of hell itself, if such a thing is possible. Back in town, we then see the witch Adria by her hut, who forebodes.
His prowess with the blade is awesome, and he has lived for thousands of years knowing only warfare. I am sorry, I cannot see if you will defeat him.
What a grim assessment. Heaven only knows how powerful a warlord would become over 1,000 years of conflict. We then see the resident armorer, Griswold the blacksmith, about our chances, but he warns.
Dark and wicked legend surrounds the one Warlord of Blood. Be well prepared, my friend, for he shows no mercy or quarter.
Well, thanks to Griswold, at least we have an edge. We then search for Farnham the Drunk by his usual rock, but curiously, he's nowhere to be found. So instead, we seek out Pepin the Healer, who redirects.
Cain would be able to tell you much more about something like this than I would ever wish to know.
It's then we pass Wirt's tree and also see the boy has moved, so instead we speak to Gillian the barmaid out front of her grandmother's hut.
If you are to battle such a fierce opponent, may light be your guide and your defender. I will keep you in my thoughts.
We thank Gillian and then turn to see Wirt the peg-legged merchant by a new tree, who admits,
I haven't ever dealt with this warlord you speak of, but he sounds like he's going through a lot of swords. Wouldn't mind supplying his armies.
Thanks, Wirt. The fate of Tristram hangs in the balance, and you'd supply the enemy. That's patriotism for you. Over by his inn, we speak to Ogden, the innkeeper, who says,
I'm afraid that I haven't heard anything about such a vicious warrior, good master. I hope that you do not have to fight him, for he sounds extremely dangerous.
Well, he's right about one thing. We're not looking forward to fighting him. Next, we see Farnham the Drunk plopped against the side of the inn by the path out of town and realize the residents have moved due to the crack to hell opening in close proximity to the sleepy hamlet. And who can blame them? However, Farnham seems in a rather optimistic, albeit inebriated mood, questioning,
Always you gotta talk about blood. What about flowers and sunshine? And that pretty girl that brings the drinks. Listen here, friend. You're obsessive, you know that?
I'm sure Gillian appreciates your ogling, Farnham, but he is right. Flowers and sunshine could be a metaphor for optimism, which is all but snuffed out thanks to Diablo's stranglehold. Lastly, we realize our only hope to bring the light back to Tristram may be in the Warlord's backstory, so we speak next to Cain the Elder by his familiar well, who instructs.
I know of only one legend that speaks of such a warrior as you describe. His story is found within the ancient chronicles of the Sin War. Stained by 1,000 years of war, blood, and death, the Warlord of Blood stands upon a mountain of his tattered victims. His dark blade screams a black curse to the living, a tortured invitation to any who would stand before this executioner of hell. It is also written that although he was once a mortal who fought beside the Legion of Darkness during the Sin War, he lost his humanity to his insatiable hunger for blood.
Our only consoling thought is that he was once mortal, and therefore he surely can perish once more. Back down on level 14, possessed lava moors block our path to the Warlord's domain. Enchanted with cold, they explode in plumes of frost, and we are nearly rendered frozen by the spell. Any more potential ambushes, we head north up the western arm of the bone-laden maze. There we encounter a vast room full of dead adventurers and piles of gold. This must be the mountain of bodies that Cain spoke of. Atop it sits a single Doomguard, but he is not alone. A trap springs as his champion comrades file in to surround us, spraying wicked licks of lightning as they fall with a final frightening farewell. Victorious, we take a moment to recuperate, picking up the treasures, no doubt invaluable to our fight to come, but realize none of these hellish knights were the Warlord of Blood himself. Heading back to the armory, a Steel Lord rushes to face us as we bolster ourselves to contend with his companion. And remember our stone curse from the Chamber of Bone, and cast it and use all our might to hack at the stony foe. However, due to his now solid countenance, it comes at the cost of precious endurance.
Time to die.
Weakened, it's then the Warlord of Blood himself appears from the shadows.
My blade seeks for your blood, mortal.
We're now heavily fatigued and race backwards to desperately find a vantage point. We then realize we must contend with his army of Steel Lords one by one if we stand any chance at success, lest we're overwhelmed. A messy and harrowing fight, we fell the remainder of Steel Lords and land successful blow after blow against the Warlord of Blood, who, regardless, presses his attack with his mighty strength, pushing us back to the northeastern side of his armory. We dig our heels into the ground and drive Griswold's edge into his breastplate, proclaiming,
Your reign of pain has ended.
With that, we've finished the execution of 1,000-year bloody reign of terror. Learning from the treachery of the past, we cautiously move through the room, collecting weapons and armor for the battle against the Hells once more, as the penultimate level 15 is now open for us to explore, bringing us one step closer to the treacherous Archbishop Lazarus and the Lord of Terror himself, Diablo, in the bowels of hell.